So you may have seen over the weekend that the Liverpool versus Manchester United game was postponed and then later cancelled because fans got onto the pitch at the stadium and protested against the owners. Something to do with a European Super League. We did a video on the European Super League last week, so I'll leave a link on the top of the screen right now if you've not seen that one. The people protesting want the Manchester United owners, the Glazers, out of the club. And that got me thinking, what would happen if they actually did leave the club? And what would happen if every other owner of a Premier League club just got up and left? And there was a big power void in the Premier League. So that's what I did. I deleted every single owner of Premier League clubs in Football Manager 2021 and I simulated forward to see what happened. And I'll be honest with you, not much changed at all. So I had to go back to the drawing board. But then it hit me. Why don't I just remove everyone from every single Premier club? So the owners, the players, the staff members, all of them, just remove them, make them all free agents and see what happens if anything changes in the Premier League and where these players end up going. Will we see a situation where Harry Kane goes from Tottenham to Arsenal, for example? Or will everyone who is decent decide, no, I'm going to go abroad to PSG or Barcelona or something like that and see if they can make a career for themselves abroad? I'll give you a sneak peek. The results are really, really interesting. But before we get into the meat of today's video, as someone who is trying to be a proper YouTuber, it would be wrong of me to not remind you to drop a like on today's video. 400 likes is the target we're going to set. Also, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, aiming for 25,000 subscribers at the moment, and we're not too far off, so every little helps. And also leave a comment down below telling me exactly what you think is going to happen in today's experiments. So here we are in game. It's the 10th of August 2020, so right at the start of the game. And as you can see, every job in the Premier League is available. Now, something weird happened with the database that I made. In the pre-game editor, you can remove all the staff members, all the players, all the owners very, very easily. But for some reason, when you jump in game, something weird happened. If we take Arsenal, for example, and go to their staff and go to all staff, for example, we can see that the game automatically just puts a random chairman in charge because it feels like it's got to do that. You can't have a club without an owner, so it just puts in someone random. So some random guy called Tom Young is now the chairman, which is fine. Despite deleting all of the staff though, the managers for the senior, under 23 and under 18 squads were still there. So I've deleted the managers, all the senior managers. So Arteta, for example, in Arsenal's case, was then removed from the club, so he's still around in game, as are all the players, all the other staff, but they're just not obviously at Arsenal. And then for some reason, it just won't delete performance analysts or recruitment analysts. They just seem to stay. Whatever I do, whatever I've tried in the database, they just always remain at the club. So every club has got analysts. But other than that, everyone's gone. As you can see, the board are gone. The main manager has gone. The senior squad is completely empty, as are all the junior squads as well. Everyone is available on a free transfer. Harry Kane here, as you can see, available on a free transfer, as is every other player who was in the Premier League. So first things first, we're going to simulate forward very shortly to the ends of the transfer window to see exactly what these clubs have done. So as this save file loads up, if you want any of these save files or databases, you can get them via the Patreon in the link in the description. So here we are, 1st of October, the very end of the transfer window, and weirdly, no club have got a manager. This is a bit bizarre, isn't it? Let's first look at the manager situation. So the Premier League, it's just kicked off. United have had 3 wins, as have Arsenal, but apparently they're 4. Okay, there's already looking like a bit of a weird bug here on the form table, which is a bit bizarre. But I'm interested in the managers right now. So if we go to transfers, manager movements, I mean, everyone's left and only Crystal Palace and Leeds have signed new managers, which seems very bizarre for like 3 months of work. So Palace have gone from Hodgson. They've got Dougie Freedman, who was the director of football at Palace. So he's now in charge of the club, which is interesting. Leeds United, on the other hand, have a guy, Lakhdar Belloumi, who I've never come across before, and understandably so, because he's the manager of a team from Algeria, which I've never come across before. And his attributes are pretty rubbish as well. I mean, maybe I should have heard of him. He's got 99 caps for Algeria, but I've not come across him. But he is now, on 3.1k per week, the manager of Leeds United. Fair enough. I've got to say, a bit of a weird manager move there. I mean, that's even more weird, I think, than the 18 other clubs still being without a manager. Have the other ones got jobs? Like Arteta has not got a job. Has Jose Mourinho got a job? No, he's not. Dean Smith? No, none of them have jobs. Solskjaer's not even got a job. How about Pep? Pep must have a job. Where's Pep Guardiola on here? Has he got a job? He's not got a job. So maybe there's just some sort of weird bug with managers. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. In terms of the teams, we'll go through this in alphabetical order to see who they've signed, for example. But by looks of things from this little sort of team screen here, lots of blacked out faces, which suggests to me they're not real. If we look at the actual full squad, yes, a vast majority of the team are not real. So the only real players Arsenal have signed are Otavio, who was a Brazilian winger playing for Porto in obviously Portugal. They've got Declan Rice on a free, 2 guys on loan, and then this guy, Josh Griffiths, who was previously at West Brom. Okay, weird start. Are all the teams like this? Villa have only got Meslier, Dalot and James Trafford. James Trafford came from Man City as a youngster. Okay, this is getting weirder and weirder right now. Brighton have 2 goalkeepers that I've never heard of before. The rest of them are all greyed out, not real players. Burnley have got Cresswell, Drinkwater, Branthwaite, Gillespie and Thomas McGill. McGill, where was he before? Crawley. No, Brighton, but then obviously was on Crawley at loan, blah, blah. Okay, that's an interesting one. Chelsea, they've got Ziyech. Did he ever leave? I feel like he's there because he had a programme transfer at a later date. So I think he's just joined before I deleted all the players. That's why Ziyech is there. But they've done well. They've got Saka, they've got Dallas, they've got Pedro Porro, they've got Brandon Williams. Lee Camp is their goalkeeper, is a little bit shaky maybe. But Click as well from Leeds, not a decent shout. So this seems to be the best squad that we've seen so far with Chelsea. Palace have got Lallana, Juan Mata and Andre Gomez. Weird ones there for them. Everton have got 3 players that I've never heard of before at the top of the screen, as you can see, in Barrow, Moore and Austin. Fulham have got Davidson Sanchez and Pascal Stroop. I can't say his surname. I won't even try. He's from Leeds, though, so fair enough. Leeds United have got James Rodriguez, Fred, Pablo Fornells, John McGinn, and a guy I've not heard of before. Where's he come from? Maccabi Tel Aviv. An interesting transfer there, but that's a pretty decent start of a squad. Obviously, lots of players to be desired in the rest of that team. Leicester have got Eric Garcia, Bertrand Barbosa, Dewhurst and Cedric Suarez, which is an interesting one. Liverpool have got Kurt Zouma, Allen, Nathan Baxter and Claudio Ramos. What is going on with this? Man City have done very well. Whoa, this Man City team is good. Fernandes, Andrew Robertson, Jordan Henderson, Joe Gomez, Ruben Neves, Mendy, Llorente, Pavon, Fofana, Tarek Lamptey, and then 2 players. I've heard of John Ruddy. He's from Norwich. Was he at Norwich? Wolves was at Norwich before that. And then this guy, a keeper that I've not come across before, played for Villa. So Man City have the best team so far. They've managed to get some good players in there. It'll be interesting to see what they do for the rest of their time. United have got some decent ones, but not quite as good. They've got Soyuncu, Harrison, James Justin, Luke Ayling, Eze, Caballero. Some decent guys there. Newcastle have got Ethan Laird and Pablo Hernandez and Chris Basham. They're their star players, which are interesting. Sheffield United have got one guy called Harry Lewis, who's a goalkeeper who previously was at Southampton as a reserve keeper by looks of things. So United probably going to go down as they did in real life. Southampton, not much better with just Nick Pope and Rob Holding, but, you know, they're not the worst players to have in the world. Tottenham have got Rui Patricio, Rafinha and Danny Ings. What a dream team that is. Whereas West Brom have got McGregor, Veltman, Stephens, James Shear, and then West Ham United have got Jamie Shackleton, Choupo-Moting on loan, and Wolves have got Hamza Chowdhury, Matty Cash, Harvey Elliott, and that's about it really. So that's a pretty weird Premier League. I can't believe, like, not many transfers have been made. Financially, these clubs are still massively up there. £239 million in the bank for United, for example. Everton, 84 million. You know, Sheffield United, 28 million. What about Man City or Chelsea? Chelsea got £90 million in there. Man City with £175 million. And Liverpool with £180 million. Like, they've got lots of money, so I'm not entirely sure why players aren't being brought in. Let's have a quick look for some of the biggest players in the Premier League. So we'll start off with Harry Kane. That's the first name I can think of. Harry Kane has gone to PSG. Okay, well, let's have a look at the PSG squad. Sorting it by current ability, wow. So PSG have picked up Kevin De Bruyne, Harry Kane, Mohamed Salah, Van Dijk, Laporte. They've picked up Ruben Diaz, Marcus Rashford, Kai Havertz. They've also got in there Reece James, Nathan Ake, Rafinha. It must be a different Rafinha, not the one that went to Leeds United. Different Rafinha there. And by looks of things, that's all of them. So they've picked up tons of players from the Premier League. So no wonder we're not seeing these big stars in the Premier League, because they've gone to PSG instead, because they're being paid stupid amounts of money. And I predict that we're going to see PSG win an awful lot of things in this. Let's look at Real Madrid. I assume they'll have picked up a couple of good players as well. They've got Sadio Mane playing for them. They've also got... Okay, that might be it, to be fair. Jamie Vardy's playing for Real Madrid alongside Sadio Mane, as you can see. Anyone else being picked up? Indeed, he's picked up. Also, Gareth Bale was obviously at Tottenham, is now back at Real Madrid, the loan got terminated. So Madrid have only picked up 3 players, I think, by looking at this. So not that many. Barcelona have got Alisson in goal for them, alongside Bernardo Silva, Firmino. They've picked up as well. Who else have they picked up? Wijnaldum, Rodri. They've picked up Reguilon. They've got some decent players from the Premier League. Bayern Munich have raided Man City. They've got Sterling, Gundogan and Phil Foden, as well as Hector Bellerin from Arsenal. Whereas Dortmund have gone for Alexander-Arnold, Martial, Rudiger, Pepe and Ollie Watkins. They're just a few of the teams that I've picked out. I've looked at other ones and they've picked up like 1 player or 2 players. Nothing really massively interesting. To go through all of it would take a long time. And unfortunately, there's no really good news system in Football Manager to sort of take you through every transfer like that, essentially, which is a bit annoying, obviously. But one place to find all of the football news is the sponsors of today's video, the One Football app. It is the best football app out there to keep up to date with all of the live fixtures and results from the games that matter to you from around the world, as well as keeping up to date with all of the transfer news. On the app, you've got a whole transfer tab dedicated to transfers, not just the actual transfers going through, also contract negotiations and renegotiations for extensions, as well as plenty of rumours, all with sources there so you can read the full in-depth story about the rumour. It's the best football app out there. I use it all the time and would massively appreciate it if you could download it from the top line of the description for absolutely free, because it massively helps me and my channel out. So we have fast forwarded to the 1st of February, just after the January transfer window. And as you can see, loads of jobs are still available in the Premier League. I don't quite understand this manager thing. It just seemed a little broken. Manager movement, still only Dougie Freedman and the guy from Algeria joining Leeds United. Everyone else still without a manager, like United. View job ad, there's still the manager job available at United and all the other 18 Premier League clubs. The Premier League table is looking actually very similar to what you'd expect in real life. I guess the teams who had all the money still have the money and have the resources to buy players and bring players in. So Liverpool doing well, Tottenham actually performing better than they are in real life, as are Arsenal. But City, Chelsea, United are up there, Leicester up there as well. I guess Newcastle, Fulham, Brighton are sort of expected to be down the bottom end of the table anyway. I've had a look through the teams as well, and virtually nothing's changed in January. Loads of the teams are the same. There's loads of greyed out players all over the place. A few signings have been made, like Emile Smith-Rowe is on loan from Man United. He wasn't before. He's at PSG as well. But for whatever reason, the clubs are not really going for it. They're not signing players. I don't understand why. No one's getting a manager. I think maybe things are a little broken. I'm not quite sure the game can handle like everyone being removed from a club. They just don't know what to do with themselves. So it's been a really interesting experiment so far, I think. I think rather than looking through the entire teams this time around, because nothing has really happened in terms of transfers, what we might do is go forward to like 2023 and see what's happened there. So here we are, 31st of May 2023. We've had 3 seasons since this experiment started, and as you can see, Man City have won the title every single season, as you would have expected given they had the best team right off the bat. You can also see Man City have been spending money. The top goal scorer in the Premier League is Erling Haaland. They've obviously signed him at some point for the team. They signed him for £105 million from Dortmund. They've also signed Camavinga from Stade Rennais, and they signed him for £67 million. I've also noticed on this bit as well that Aston Villa, as well as being relegated, have also qualified for the Europa Conference League. I assume they've won the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. They won that, so they got qualification to the Europa Conference League. but are being relegated to the Championship. So a second division team will play in the Europa League next season, which is quite funny. But again, we will go through in alphabetical order and have a quick look at the summary page here. And as you can see, Thierry Henry has taken over at Arsenal, and this is their team. So they picked up Pickford. They've got him, they've got James Maddison, Declan Rice, but they've also bought plenty of other players by the looks of things. They've not really taken advantage of all the free players released from the Premier League, at least for their starting 11, as you can see. Aston Villa, they've got Ralph, I can't say his surname, but he's the guy currently at Southampton, right, isn't he? And they've got a team, again, of players that maybe you wouldn't quite recognise from the Premier League. I think they brought in Ben Knight from Man City. Hap, I believe he used to be playing for Leighton or... Okay, that's a bit of a weird transfer. I can see why they've been relegated, Aston Villa, but maybe not doing the most they have with the availability and players available on a free transfer. Bournemouth, for example, they're also in the Premier League. They've got Callum Wilson. In fact, actually, they got relegated, didn't they? So they weren't affected by any of this. So their first team is probably pretty similar. So we'll brush over Bournemouth slightly. We'll also brush over Brentford. But Burnley, they have now got Vladimir Ivic, which I'm probably saying all wrong, the current manager of Maccabi Tel Aviv. He was briefly at Watford, apparently. Not sure if that's real life or in-game, but now at Burnley. So welcome to Burnley. And they have Callum Morton playing up front for them, who's currently at Lincoln City. So, I mean, that's an interesting transfer there for him. But welcome to Burnley, Callum Morton. I hope it's nicer for you than Lincoln is. It won't be, because Lincoln is literally the best place in the world. They've got Dean Henderson in goal, though. They've got Branthwaite, but no one else that I'm sort of recognising as former Premier League players. Maybe Styles and Jeff Carr, because they are English names, basically, so I assume they play for an English club. Chelsea, I love this. Chelsea have got Sean Dyche as manager, which is fantastic, but they've also got players like Allen, who they bought off Man United, because he went to United, didn't he? Or Liverpool. He went to Liverpool, and they've bought him for £9 million there, interestingly. They've also got Morelos from Rangers up front. They've got Demiral, they've got Ben Godfrey, they've got Saka. An interesting team. Everton have got Nuno as their manager, as you can see, and they've got a pretty big Premier League presence in their team with John Stones, for example. They've got Whittaker, Bird, and Cork playing for them. Sargent, used to play for Arsenal. Werder Bremen. I thought I recognised his name, but I thought he was playing somewhere in England. I don't know. Leeds have got Sarri as their manager, which is interesting. And they've also got former Premier League players such as Fred, McGinn, Fornells. They've got Rodriguez in the attacking midfield. Is that Fraser Campbell? Tyrese Campbell, who used to play for Stoke. So obviously actually wasn't affected by this. He was obviously transferred from Stoke to Leeds. Leicester have Steve Beaglehole as their manager. He was the manager of the under-23 team before moving up to the Leicester manager. So that's an interesting one for them. They've promoted from within for their manager. But they've got players like Bradley Dack. They've got Tyrese John Jules. They've got Cedric Suarez at right back. Marcus Dewhurst in goal. They've got Josh Tymon at left back. Is this Craig Dawson at centre back as well? He came in from Watford. Liverpool have got Robbie Fowler as their manager. I'm sure there's plenty of Liverpool fans out there happy with that one. But they've got former Premier League players such as Ampadu. They've got Zuma. And actually, they're the only two former Premier League players in their sort of starting 11, as you can see. Man City have Bielsa as their manager. I'm pretty sure a lot of Man City fans would be happy with Bielsa as their manager. But as we spoke about earlier, they are insane. They do retain Jordan Henderson and Ruben Neves and Joe Gomez and David De Gea and Andrew Robertson in the team. But they've also brought in players like Haaland, Ronaldo, and Camavinga. Also, Lamptey playing on the other wing. Imagine that. Lamptey and Cristiano Ronaldo on your wings. The unlikely partnership. United have Arteta as the manager. It's interesting, they've all got managers now. I wonder why it took them so long to get managers, but Arteta in charge of United, and they've got people like Cancelo playing for them. They've got, is that Jack Harrison playing for them? Yeah, Jack Harrison playing for them, the former Man City player, of course. James Justin still in the team too. Eze in the attacking midfield, so an interesting lineup there for United. Norwich have Luis Enrique, who in reality is the manager of Spain right now and was previously at Barcelona. They've done well, Norwich, to get Luis Enrique in there somehow. But of course, they were in the Championship, weren't they, when we started off this experiment? So they weren't affected by any of this at all. But they've strengthened well by bringing in players like Rafael Santos Borre, Nandez, Sanchez, Max Aarons, although he's actually there already, wasn't he? So ignore that one. Tonali's come in as well, so they've done pretty well, Norwich. Nottingham Forest also in the Premier League, but again, we're not really focused on them or thinking about them. Neither with Reading, but Southampton, they've got David Horseman as the manager, who was their under-23 manager before that. They've got players like Ivan Toney, who they've actually brought in, right? Schneiderlin, I think they've got on a free transfer. Holding is there as well. Rob Olsen too, but everyone else I think has been bought in. West Ham have Yardim as their manager, the current Monaco boss, which is interesting. So he came into the club and has done pretty well with them, apparently. They're 16th in the Premier, not very well at all, actually, have they? But they've got players like Deeney up front. They've got Sigurdsson. They've also got Harry Toffolo, former Lincoln City player, playing for them. They've brought him into the club as well, as you can see. So up with Toffolo. How's he been doing, Harry Toffolo? £7 million. If only we got that for him at Huddersfield. And then finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Well, they've got players like Nketiah, Harvey Elliott, Loftus-Cheek, Matty Cash, Nick Pope in goal, Callum Chambers at the back too, Leif Davies playing for them, and their manager, Hein, not going to try and pronounce that surname, is the current manager of Ghent by the looks of things. So good to see some movement around, but we're not really seeing the former Premier League stars actually staying in the Premier League. They've all been elsewhere, so we'll investigate that more in a couple seasons' time. We're going to go forward once more to 2025. So it's 2025, and for the 5th year in a row, Man City have won the league. Norwich, by looks of things, they've been promoted and done really well the past few seasons. Norwich, I think, came 5th in 2023, and they're still up there right now, so it wasn't just a freak season for them. In terms of the top scorers, well, Mbappe, he's moved himself to Man City. I say he's not done the moving himself, has he? Man City have bought him off PSG, and he's now moved to Manchester because of that. He's got 27 goals this season. So Man City look absolutely insane, even after we've got rid of all of their star players and manager. Mason Greenwood playing for Chelsea right now too. Did he always play for Chelsea? No, he went to Real San Sebastian for a while, which is an interesting move, before Chelsea bought him for 64 million. There's going to be so many stories like this with really good young players going abroad that we've missed because we just can't possibly cover them all in one single video. In fact, let's look at all the goals. Like Eddie Nketiah is 4th top scorer for Wolverhampton Wanderers there, which is pretty interesting. Cauley Woodrow down there for Everton. He was obviously at Brentford, wasn't he, before this? Barnsley, sorry. Josh is going to kill me for saying that. What we should do, though, is look at the Champions League and see the top scorers in the Champions League from the past season and see where some of the players have ended up. Although I'm not really seeing many former Premier League players in this top list. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes there at Man City, we knew that already. Looking down the list, Greenwood at Chelsea, we knew that already. Salah at PSG, we knew that already. Phil Foden is now at Atletico Madrid, but we knew he went elsewhere first, didn't he? Raul Jimenez, right down here at the bottom. He went to, is it Nuremberg? He went to Nuremberg in the Bundesliga. Has his whole career been that, Raul Jimenez? History, he went to Mainz, then Hertha, and then to Nuremberg. So an interesting career for Jimenez. In terms of the Europa League, again, we're not really seeing many former Premier League players. Where are they all? Alex Iwobi's at Hertha Berlin. So it looks like a lot of players went to Germany. So he went straight to Hertha Berlin, has been there ever since Iwobi. Richarlison is at Valencia, as is Hudson-Odoi. I've just seen below that too. And he's been at Valencia his entire time so far. Hudson-Odoi also at Valencia the entire time. As you can see, though, the only team to make the final of the Champions League from the UK is Norwich, which is just bizarre. Norwich fans, would you take that? I think you would do, wouldn't you? How have Norwich done that? I mean, yes, they've kept their team, but like, how they've made that much improvement in... That was 3 seasons in. That's literally... How have they done that? That is mental. Norwich. Because I don't think they took massive advantage of everything going on. I'm really surprised by that. Fair play to them. Fair play to Norwich. Their team... senior squad, I don't think they really signed anyone in particular who used to play. Davinson Sanchez. I mean, he's not a Champions League, he's still not a Champions League winner, but he's not going to get you to a final. So obviously the team has probably changed a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they've only picked up Davinson Sanchez, Lewis Cook and Ross Barkley from the mass exodus of former Premier League players. Norwich are mental. In the Europa League, Liverpool have just won it in the season we've just had. So finally some actual silverware in European competitions for an English team. But again, Liverpool, I don't think they retained many players. Kurt Zuma, Oliver Skip, Grealish is in there too. Danny Ings. Not many though, right? So today's experiment has been a little weird. I kind of expected just all of the Premier League teams to just re-sign everyone who was then made a free transfer, because they have no players. They need to get players. So they may as well try and get everyone on a free transfer who was left from other clubs. But that wasn't the case. They went everywhere else in Europe, apparently. For the first season, hardly anyone got transferred in. No managers were ever signed. And then Norwich go on to a Champions League. This is just bizarre. So I feel like we kind of broke the game a little bit today. Just a little bit. But that is going to be the end of today's episode. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Of course, if you have done, make sure you do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new round here. And leave a comment down below telling me what was the most bizarre bit, because it all seemed pretty bizarre. If you want to explore this save file yourself, then you can do via the link to the Patreon in the description below. Sign up to that and you get access to all of the save files. But until next time, hope you have a great evening. I will see you all very soon. Lots of love. Goodbye.